Hey, Trump started early. Trump already started early, so let's go to the press conference.
4%, like downtown Manhattan.
In front of very hostile judges, like hostile like you wouldn't believe.
Hold on. Hang on. We're going to it right now.
And Gorin and Judge Kaplan, all of them hostile areas and very, very hostile
Judges. I've never seen anything like it. And very bad thing in this case, New York. Very bad thing for New York. Businesses won't come to New York because of what took place with Judge Engoron. I can tell you that. And probably the rest of them also. But this case involved a woman who wrote a book, and I guess she said something in the book. That's when I first heard about it. I first heard about it in the White House. And, of course, I denied the story because it's not true. I have no idea who the woman is. And I never met her. Now, I don't know about a picture that was taken 40 years ago with her husband on a celebrity line, so I don't think that counts. But as far as I know, I never met her. I never touched her. I would have had no interest in meeting her in any way, shape, or form. Her husband was a news anchor, actually, John Johnson, a very nice guy. She called him horrible things. We weren't allowed to say that in the trial. She said horrible things about him. I guess they're since divorced. He's a very nice guy, African-American, and she said very bad things. We weren't allowed to use that in the trial, which surprised a lot of people. But she made up a story, it fabricated 100%, that I attacked her at Bergdorf Goodman. You know, it's very interesting. I don't think they were allowed to use this either. Her favorite show is Law and Order. And there's a almost exact story as her story in Law and Order about being attacked in the dressing room of a department store. I don't know if they used the name of the store. But that's her favorite show, Law and Order. She said that. And anyway, this evolved into a defamation case against me because I disputed her words because I told the truth. We were called. I was in the White House, and I said, no, it never happened. I didn't even know what they were talking about. This was, I think I was in the Oval Office. Sir, do you know anything about this? And this had to do with a book, and she had a few pages in a book making this claim. By the way, there was never a claim. There was never a police report. There was never anything mentioned. There was never publicity 30 or 40 years ago, whenever it took place. Nobody knows. She doesn't know when it took place. When did it take place? She has no idea. She thinks it was in the 1990s. She thinks it was in the 1990s. And the judge, we had two trials. We asked for a consolidation. He said no. The reason he said no is he'd rather have double the publicity because that's bad for me. Very bad because I'm running for president. And this is not the kind of publicity you like. And whether it's true or not, it's horrible. And in this case, it's so false. It's a made-up, fabricated story by somebody, I think, initially just looking to promote a book. And when they called me, I denied the story. I got sued essentially for defamation because I'm denying a story where I'm right. I should be suing her for defamation. So that's where it is. Now, there were two witnesses. One is a woman who's followed me for years. She said in 1979, I was in an airplane with her, commercial flight, and we became very intimate. I just sat down. I think I had the book, The Art of the Deal. I was famous then, too. I've been famous for a long time. And we're sitting in first class, according to her. Never happened, by the way. Totally made up story. She's a Clinton person, too, by the way. Big Clinton person. She made up the story. And so many years ago, and I think it would be 1979. One of my many people behind me could correct it, but I think she said 1979. That's a long time ago. And I sat down. I believe I had some pretty big success then, and I was being talked about a lot. Maybe The Art of the Deal was out, sometime after that. I'm not sure. But I was well known. And passengers are coming into the plane. And she said I was making out with her. And then, after 15 minutes, and then she changed her story a couple of times. Maybe it was quicker. That I grabbed her at a certain part, and that was when she had enough. Now, so think of how the impracticality of this. I'm famous. I'm in a plane. People are coming into the plane. And I'm looking at a woman, and I grab her, and I start kissing her and making out with her. What are the chances of that happening? What are the chances? And frankly, I know you're going to say it's a terrible thing to say, but it couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. And she would not have been the chosen one. She would not have been the chosen one. She has gone around for years saying the story. Everywhere I go, she says this story. And it's a total lie. Now, I assume she'll sue me now for defamation, like I got sued by E. Jean Carroll, who interestingly said she's been hurt, damaged, but she's made more money since she did this than she ever made in her life. She gets paid a lot of money to go talk bad things about me. So remember this whole thing started, along with just about every other case I'm involved with the political campaign of Harris, and who's having a bad time because she can't talk, of Harris and Joe Biden. This was election interference. It all is. It's all fabricated. But fabricated in front of very friendly judges for them and in very friendly areas for them. If you get a jury, it's very hard to win in a jury where you have 3 or 4 or 5% Republican votes. Very, very tough, actually. 2 witnesses. One is named Jessica Leeds, so she was up again. She can't get rid of her. She was up. She said I was in an airplane doing that. A couple of things. You have an armrest in planes back in those days. Oh, by the way, she didn't know anything about the flight, where we were going. Where I was in very few flights. I was a New York guy building New York buildings. I was at very few airplanes, I will tell you, in those days. 1979, I think. It's a long time ago. But you had the armrest. And in the old days, they didn't move, okay? But she said she then got out and she went to the back of the plane, and that was the end of the story, I think. And this story has followed me for years. But just to finish with her, Jessica Leeds, no police reports, no witnesses, no corroboration of any kind. No criminal suggestions, no nothing. Then you have another one, and this one is a writer for People magazine, who I actually thought was very nice. She came to Mar-a-Lago, and she wrote the most beautiful story you've ever seen. It was a love story about Melania and myself, a love story in People magazine. And that was it. It was a cover, I think, but it was a beautiful story. Everybody would love to have that marriage. She said the nicest things about me, about Melania. You have the story. I mean, you can read the story. And her name was whoever. Let's see. Her name was who? Swornoff, yeah. I don't have it. Whatever her name was. I don't know the lady, so perhaps it's much better that way, but I really don't know the lady. So she wrote this beautiful story, and about, I don't know, years later, no police reports, no anything. Years later, the same person they called up, did you attack at Mar-a-Lago this woman, this writer, whatever her name is? And she was a witness in a case. Her and Leeds were the 2 witnesses, only 2 witnesses. Did you attack her? I said, who is she? And they said, she writes for People magazine. I said, I don't know anything about the lady. If I had a story long ago, years before, about People, but it was a very nice story. So I don't know. It has to be made up because I don't know what you're talking about. It turned out that the same lady that wrote this beautiful story years later said I attacked her. Now, think of this. Oh, and she said the butler knew everything. The old expression, the butler did it, right? Very famous in crime stories. Well, the butler was Tony Senecal, worked for me for a long time. He was retired at that time. That was years later. He retired. He was retired when this hoax came out. And what happened is he totally confirmed my story, and he didn't even work for me anymore. He passed away a couple of years ago, a good man. He said the woman was crazy. It never happened. I was the one that served her whatever she was drinking, and I was there, and nothing ever happened. But you don't need the butler. All you have to do is read the story. Think of this. A woman comes into Mar-a-Lago, interviews me about a love story about my wife and myself, and during that interview, I attacked her and pushed her up against the wall violently. Okay? And then she leaves and she writes a perfect story. A perfect story. She doesn't mention the event. Again, there's nothing on file at all. Zero. There was no complaints. There were no complaints to People magazine. There was no witness. There was nothing. Yeah, well, there was a witness, the butler, and he's already said everything. He's already told the story. Because this story, likewise, like Leeds, this story has followed me around. I could go through many other stories outside of this. You know, it's very funny. When you're rich and famous, you get a lot of people come up with a lot of stories. But you're writers, and some of you are legitimate writers, and some of you aren't. Some of you are fake news, and some of you are real news. But put yourself in my position. I'm running for president, and I have all these cases all of a sudden come out. And they're fake cases, and they report back to DOJ. And you have Lisa Monaco, one of the people at DOJ who I saw the other day talking about the Russia hoax. And yet she's friends with Andrew Weissman and that whole group. And crew, who should be sued, by the way, because they're not a charity. All they are is a political organization that goes after Trump for the last 8 years. I mean, he's a sick person that runs that, too. But Lisa Monaco is in the Department of Justice, but she's a Andrew Weissman person who's been after me for years. So far, he's failed. And he's having a heart attack because I'm leading in the polls, I guess. If you look at the Nate Silver, very respected guy. I don't know him, but he has me up by a lot. So let's say we're leading, or let's say we're tied, or let's say what difference. I'm in the race. It's between two people, but I think we're leading by a lot because the opponent refuses to do an interview because she can't talk. And they're not going to skate through it. I'm not going to have a Marxist president. The people are getting it. So we go down to court today to talk about this case is a scam. And all I can say is that I never met the woman other than this picture, which could have been AI generated. I don't know. Showed up out of nowhere, but it's fine. Nice picture with her husband, and lots of other people are online. It's a celebrity line. But never met her, never touched her, never had anything to do with her. The other thing is I was very famous then. If I would have walked into Bergdorf Goodman, the department store that she said, everybody would have said, oh, there's Trump. And it would have been, at that time, on page 6. Page 6 was the equivalent of today's internet. And it would have been a big story if I would have walked into that store, gone into a dressing room, and supposedly you know what to her. Never happened. Never happened. Total phony story. And I feel sad that I have to come up here and explain it. I have all this legal talent, but legal talent cannot overcome rigged judges, They can't overcome a 4% Republican area. And I'm disappointed in my legal talent, I'll be honest with you. They're good. They're good people. They're talented people. Today at the trial, they didn't mention the dress. So the Monica Lewinsky type dress was a big part of the trial. Big part of the trial. I said, why didn't you mention that? And I heard there was a dress involved. And I wasn't frightened at all because I did nothing with her. Never touched this woman, saw this woman, had no idea who she was. But they have a dress, sir. I said, so what? Well, sir, it's very sir. They used that dress to try and intimidate me. They used that dress with the public. That dress was such a famous dress. It was Monica Lewinsky, Part 2, the dress. And the judge wanted it for trial. And it was going to go into trial. And then they found out there was nothing on the dress, which I knew. And then the judge wouldn't allow it to be used. So they used it as a cudgel. They used it as a hammer over my head. And then the judge, when he heard that it showed totally negative, the judge wouldn't allow us to use it at trial. Then there was an Anderson Cooper interview where she said essentially, no, he didn't rape me. She was selling her book. She wrote a book. The book would have been a total failure, probably was anyway, although probably sold more recently. Again, this is a woman that wasn't doing well until she came out with this stuff about me. And that's happened to others too, by the way. She's not the only one. But they have the Anderson Cooper tape. And in the Anderson Cooper tape, it's an interview of her. And Cooper says something to the effect, did he rape you? Did he rape you? He was so happy. Oh, did he rape you? And she gave a very good answer for me, but a bad answer for CNN, for Anderson. And he said, we're going to commercial break right now. We're going. Then she came back from commercial break, and she was much more hostile. But this man wouldn't let us use the tape or the proper questions having to do with the tape. Wouldn't let us. The Judge Kaplan, wouldn't let it be used. We wanted to get the outtakes. In other words, what did Anderson Cooper talk to her about during that intermission for a commercial that he called for immediately? Where do you see this? I mean, some of you have seen it, some of you haven't. We're going to commercial break right now. And so what happened is we weren't able to use it. The other thing is we had not one trial, we had two trials. Nobody understands why. We asked for a consolidation. And I wanted to show up to the trial, to the first trial. My lawyer, who's not up here, not with us any longer, sir, you should not show up. You're the former president or the president. I don't even know when the trial was, but you're the president of the United States, sir. This is beneath you. I've got this 100%. The dress is negative, but he wasn't able to use it. Sir, it's beneath you to show up. I said, but wouldn't that be bad for a jury? Wouldn't that be sort of bad for a jury if I don't show up? He said, sir, you don't have to show up. I've got this. You shouldn't do it. It's beneath you. It's beneath the office of the president. I understood what he meant by that. And so I didn't show up. And I was found guilty of something that I didn't do with a woman that I have never seen, touched, or in any way was involved with, nor would I want to be. I would not want to be. My people say, please don't say that. I would not want to be involved with her. And that's where we are. So we're appealing it, and people would say it's not a friendly panel based on the appointments, but you'll look that up yourself. But I hope they understand this is the office of the President of the United States, and there has to be fairness shown. Our court system is looking so bad. If you're a Democrat, these are all Democrat-appointed people. Biden, Clinton, think others. 3 people. They seem very good today, and I mean, they seem absolutely fine. But I've read and I've heard it's not a friendly panel, but I wasn't surprised because I don't get friendly panels. I don't get friendly panels. But where we've had fair judges, where we've had brilliant judges, frankly, I don't know the judge in Florida, Judge Cannon, don't know her at all. But I think she's a brilliant woman. I think she handled a scam. It's a scam case. That's the documents case. That's the case where Biden, who had 10 times more documents, took all this stuff for years, 50 years, and he was exonerated. Of course, they said he was incompetent, so he wasn't fit. So he was exonerated based on that. But me, I don't get exonerated so easily. And I had a thing called the Presidential Records Act, which exonerates me. But we won that trial, and the other side plays the ref. Crew and Weissman and all these people. And again, Lisa Monaco should not be involved in this because she's been after Trump for years, and now she's like the second person at the DOJ. But she's with all these people. And they're playing the ref, and they say terrible things about judges. They do it with the Supreme Court justices because they think they're going to intimidate them. I think it should be illegal. That's what the DOJ should look into, the legality of these people taking a brilliant judge and demeaning her, and taking other people that are fair and solid and demeaning them. It's called playing the ref. Nobody did it better than the late, great Bobby Knight basketball coach. He would play, he would scream at those refs and everything. They'd say, Bobby, you're not going to get the decision overturned. Yep, but the next one I will. And he was right. He was a great basketball coach. Last coach to have an undefeated season. Last coach in basketball to have it many years ago. He also endorsed me, but he played the ref. These people are playing the ref when they are allowed to call for recusal, impeachment of a judge because they're not getting their way. And for some reason, the other side doesn't do that. They don't do that. The other side is much softer. Republicans play it a lot softer, but they play it legitimately. So I'm going to ask, if I might, Will Scharf to come up, just say a couple of words about what took place today. One of our attorneys working on this it's a ridiculous case. Remember, it never happened. It was made up for political reasons. And the DOJ is behind everything. Every one of these cases. It's political interference. It's a witch hunt, just like the fake Russia scam was a witch hunt. And just like they want to start that scam all over again by announcing that Russia we're talking about. And you know what they do when they do that? They intimidate people from having a fair election. They intimidate poll workers from speaking up when they see crooked things take place in the election. And it's a disgrace. Our country's in serious trouble. Our judicial system is in very serious trouble. Will, please come up. Thank you.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Will Scharf. I'm one of President Trump's attorneys. Today we presented oral argument before the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in one of 2 cases brought against President Trump by E. Jean Carroll. Now, it's really important to remember that E. Jean Carroll's story at its heart is an utterly implausible he said, she said story. There is no corroboration for anything she has ever claimed about President Trump. There are no corroborating witnesses. As President Trump alluded to, there is not confirmatory DNA. No police report was filed at the time of this alleged incident. She was unable to identify when this incident occurred until quite recently. No surveillance evidence or witnesses have ever been found or come forward confirming any aspect of E. Jean Carroll's story. In light of that, in light of the utter implausibility of the story that E. Jean Carroll was attempting to sell to the jury in this case, her attorneys introduced evidence that should have never seen the inside of a courtroom. Utterly insane efforts to introduce propensity witnesses, Jessica Leeds and Natasha Stoynoff, most notably, in an unfair and improper effort to buttress E. Jean Carroll's failed attempt to assault President Trump. Jessica Leeds' story is instructive here. This is a woman who claims that in the middle of a crowded airliner in 1979, President Trump assaulted her. Leeds has never been able to identify where this plane departed from, where it went to, the date of the flight in question, making our efforts to disprove her testimony extremely difficult. Under the federal rules of evidence, this story should have never been allowed to be presented to the jury in this case. The same is true of Natasha Stoynoff's story, which again lacks any indicia of reliability, any sort of credibility, any sort of confirmatory testimony from other witnesses, or anything else that would make you believe that this actually happened. So on the one hand, you have a judge who allowed in this improper propensity evidence that should not have been allowed in. In our view, that polluted the jury's deliberations in this case. That presented a story to the jury of a series of a pattern of conduct that the jury should not have been considering. And we think that absent that propensity evidence, no fair jury could have reached the verdict that was reached in this case. And as a result, we believe that this verdict needs to be overturned. But there's more than that. In addition to this improper propensity evidence, President Trump and his trial team were prevented from cross-examining E. Jean Carroll and other witnesses on crucial issues in particular relating to political coordination and the political motivation behind this entire lawsuit. This is a lawsuit that was instigated in large part by George Conway, a longtime political foe and adversary of President Trump. This is a lawsuit that was funded by Reid Hoffman, a key political ally of the Biden-Harris administration and a major Democrat donor. We were limited in the evidence we were allowed to present at trial about these crucial facts. We were prevented from cross-examining E. Jean Carroll on aspects of that dynamic that underlies this entire lawsuit. And that, too, unfairly corrupted the jury's deliberations in this case and requires reversal of the jury verdict. I think this political coordination point is particularly important, though. It's important to emphasize, because what we have seen in the last few years is a weaponization by the Biden administration and by their political allies of our legal system and of our courts to unlawfully, unconstitutionally interfere with President Trump's core First Amendment right to run for president. That is a right guaranteed to him by the Constitution. That is the right that his political opponents are attempting to strip away from him. We have seen this in case after case after case where unfair political motives have underlay what should be serious legal proceedings. And I think when you look at this situation in toto, when you look at what the left, when you look at what the Biden-Harris administration is attempting to do to President Trump, this is insane. This is an absolute abuse of our legal system. It's an absolute abuse of the rule of law. It should be deeply offensive, not just to political supporters of President Trump, but to each and every American. With respect to today's appeal, we are hopeful that the Second Circuit understands what's at stake here. We are hopeful that the Second Circuit understands what occurred during this trial, which was an improper use of evidence to buttress E. Jean Carroll's entirely meritless claims on the one hand, and an improper exclusion of evidence that would have informed the jury about the true motivation behind this lawsuit and that we believe would have resulted in a very different verdict. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I've done this one too many times, actually too many times for the last 3.5 years while President Trump has been trying to fight to get this country back. And I want to speak to the American women, and I want to speak to the people that need to get out and vote on November 5th. I have sat with President Trump for years now while he has been targeted with lies and with judges, AGs, and DAs who have specifically run in this city and others on getting Trump. The Trump administration will fix this problem. We will stop Kamala Harris's regime, because she was there, let's not forget that, and she still is, of using officials from the White House, putting them in DA's offices, in AG's offices, and attacking your political opponent. And this country deserves better than this. We do. We should not be sitting here at a press conference talking about this. We did this in 2016, and every woman had no reports. They come out when it's election time. And as a woman who has stood with President Trump, who has spent extensive time with President Trump and with his beautiful family, I will tell you, that is not President Trump, and I completely am disgusted by what I have seen happen to this person, his family, and the Trump organization that we stand in right now. You must vote Donald Trump back in because as an attorney, as a woman, as a mother, our future of this country depends on it, and we need to stop this from happening. The DOJ is supposed to help our country and protect us, not attack us because you cannot win in the polls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both. And just in finishing this, we have numerous other trials that are also very much in coordination with the DOJ. They actually took just about their top person and they put him into the offices of the Attorney General of New York, and then also the office of the DA Bragg's office, to make sure the case is brought viciously against their political opponent. And it's a shame. It's a shame. Businesses will not come to New York because of it. They actually, in the case of Engoron, they used a consumer frauds case, never used before for a thing like this. And not only were my numbers correct, and again, this was a generality. All you need is a general, but I had really good numbers, but they were very conservative, very much on the low side. And the judge knew that. And the judge ruled a fine against me, the likes of which has never even been heard of. Businesses will never come to this state as long as that is able to be held up, because we won that trial so conclusively. We had an expert witness said that President Trump's financial, this was an expert witness from the Stern School of Business, one of the most highly respected people in the country, as an expert witness. He said, to the best of my remembering, it's a big statement, but he said, this is perhaps the best financial statement I've ever seen. But the judge made me pay like a $400 million fine. This is a consumer fraud statement. Think of it, consumer frauds case that they made it in. The judge refused to give it over to the commercial division where they could understand things, and they would have dismissed it immediately because this case had no merit whatsoever. The judge wanted to settle the case for a very much smaller amount. And I said, I'm not going to settle. I didn't do anything wrong. But he would have settled the case for a much smaller amount. He wanted to settle it for a much more. We had numerous meetings in his office for a fraction of the number that he gave. That was one of the interesting things. I figured that the worst that you could do is what he wanted to settle for, which was a very small number by comparison. And then he just came out with this number. This was a coordination with the DOJ. And the other case that you know about and you've been hearing about, which is same kind of a thing, also in coordination, is the Bragg case. And they actually wanted to put them together in New York. They wanted to put the DA case together with the Attorney General case, but they both wanted credit. They couldn't understand, you know, they both wanted credit, so they had their own cases. And it's very corrupt in New York, and very, very corrupt. It's a very corrupt place and doing very badly. But when people see what happened, and when they see, oh, I've had so many calls from business people saying, this is just terrible. Today, there was a story about somebody in Southern District who's highly respected, knocking the hell out of both of those cases, say it's an embarrassment they were allowed to be brought. And I'm going to write out a list of things from Alan Dershowitz, Andrew McCarthy, Greg Jarrett, some of the greatest people, all legal scholars, great people, Jonathan Turley, like 10 highly respected, the most highly respected people that quote Calabrese, Judge Calabrese, that quote on cases. And they, I mean, shockingly, they can't even believe it. They said this case should not have been allowed to be brought. And that's about pretty much both cases, but it's about the case that we have in front of Judge Merchan. That case is a disgrace. Should have never been allowed. I did nothing wrong. And he took a non-existent, expired, long expired by the statute of limitations, misdemeanor. He made it into 34 or something more than that counts of felony. Nobody can even believe it. Over nothing. And if you look at that case, he wouldn't allow it. That whole thing was done by an attorney. I had nothing to do with it. That was done by an attorney, a sleazebag named Michael Cohen. And he did the whole thing. And you're allowed to have reliance on attorney. It's called reliance on attorney. You have a reliance on attorney. Attorney's allowed to do things. And all it was is a non-disclosure agreement with somebody that said nothing happened, by the way. I might add that. If you don't mind, I'll add that. We have a statement, nothing happened. And he got a non-disclosure agreement. He did it on his own, and this judge refused to allow us to use that as a defense, the attorney-client defense, which is very standard. Other people have never heard that you're not allowed to use it. But he's the one that did it because I was running for president and running the country. He's the one that did it. So all of these cases are a disgrace. But the case that we had today downtown, I wish we could have mentioned the dress. Again, got the idea from Monica Lewinsky, but it was negative, wasn't allowed to be used. I wish we could have mentioned many of the other things, and I certainly wish we could have gone to CNN and got the outtakes, what's called the outtakes. What did Anderson Cooper tell her during the commercial? I'd love to find that out. So that's where we are. We have a very corrupt system of laws, but in that system we have some very good judges also, and I think in the end the good judges will prevail. And I hope Democrat-appointed judges can see a scam like this where somebody just makes up a story, probably out of Law and Order. I don't know. She made it up out of somewhere. But check out the Law and Order episode that we're talking about. Make up a story, and I end up getting sued. And by the way, the punishment is like $89 million and wouldn't have two cases. It should have been one case. But two cases is better because you get double bad publicity. We asked the judge, could you consolidate the cases? Same case. And he refused to do so. He wanted two cases. So two cases, two sets of lawyers, two everything. It's really, really very disgraceful. Let me talk about job numbers because, as you know, they just came out, and they're a basic disaster. They are really bad. You had numbers that are shocking. Native-born Americans, we lost 1.3 million jobs, while foreign-born Americans were able to take all of those jobs. So foreigners coming in illegally, largely illegally, into our country, took the jobs of native-born Americans. And I've been telling you that's what's going to happen. Because we have millions and millions of people pouring into our country, many from prisons and jails and mental institutions and insane asylums. Traffickers, human traffickers, women traffickers, sex traffickers, which, by the way, that's the kind of thing that people should be looking at because it's horrible. And it's turning out that migrant crime is far worse than any crime that we've ever experienced. If you look at Aurora, Colorado, they're taking over the place. They took over buildings, and this is just the beginning. You haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen any. They've allowed well over 20 million people, in my opinion. Other people say, well, it's only 13. No. It's much more than 20. I think it's much more than 20. Our country is being invaded because of incompetent people like Kamala that doesn't want to do one interview. She does one softball interview with CNN. Couldn't have been nicer. Dana Bash, you know what? I gained respect for Dana Bash and for Jake Tapper, because in my interview with Sleepy Joe, I thought they were very fair, actually. I was surprised. They were very fair. I'm going into very hostile territory shortly on a debate with ABC, George Slopadopoulos and that group. And ABC, I think, is the worst of everybody. I think they're the worst. They're the nastiest. They're as bad as you can be. They're worse than NBC, which is saying a lot. And we have something coming. And the reason I'm doing it is because that's the only one that she would do it with, because her best friend is the head of ABC or ABC News, and her husband's best friend is married to that one. So, and Donna Brazile is there. You remember the famous Donna Brazile? She gave Hillary Clinton the questions. You remember that? That was a little embarrassing. She got fired, I assume, for that. But now she's working at ABC. So I said, I'll do it anyway, because even if she knows the answers and knows the questions, I don't think she'll be very good. And this is not what our country wants. And I feel I have an obligation to do it. And she'd never stand up here like this and give a news conference and speak about what's happening with the weaponization of our justice system. This is the weaponization of justice at a level that nobody's ever seen in this country before. We've never seen it. You see it in third world countries, you see it in banana republics, but you don't see it in the United States of America, and it's a very sad thing. And I think I'm doing a great service by having gone through it and revealing it, because, you know, it came out with a indictment from the district attorney, which, again, just revealed today, and I hope you're going to do a story because it's a big story. The Southern District of New York was, and this is a very highly respected group of people. He said it was a disgrace that that case was brought. It was a disgrace that the case was brought in front of Mershon. The case is a disgrace. Should have never been brought. Should have never been brought. And the case in front of Judge Engoron, just in terms of the case itself, we had 4 or 5 overturns in the appellate division. I only hope the appellate division, for the good of New York, otherwise you just say, God save the state. For the good of New York, I hope that the appellate division will do what's right on that case, because that case was a scam. But every single one of these cases that I'm mentioning, they're all hoaxes and scams. No different than Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 the impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, all these things that we won. We won them all. But it takes time, it takes effort. And they're at it again. But this time, what they're doing is they're hitting us as hard as possible. You know, it's very interesting. It just brings to light the lawyer on the hoax that we're talking about now, having to do with E. Jean Carroll. She said, the way to defeat Trump is go after him civilly as often as possible, make his life miserable, sue him all the time, keep him in court, and let him spend a fortune. That's the lawyer I have in the E. Jean Carroll case. And that's exactly what they've done. The only thing I can say that's good about it is the public understands. And my poll numbers, I believe, are higher now than they would have been without it, because the public understands it's a hoax, it's a scam, it's a political witch hunt, and some of you should be ashamed of yourselves. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so it was supposed to be a press conference. I apologize. He did not take any questions. So, again, it was officially announced as a press conference. So we'll talk about it a bit. It also started early. The press release I saw, and also the Reuters schedule, had it at noon. So my understanding is that officially it was supposed to start at noon, but it started I want to say 20, 25 minutes early. So I'm not sure why that happened, but he didn't take any questions. So I do apologize. I mean, all I can do is go off of what the campaign announces, or what his camp announces, and it was announced as a press conference. So I do apologize. Really quick, what I want to do here is, oops, first of all, the headline is messed up. Let me fix the headline. Hang on a moment. I got to fix the headline. Oh my gosh, everything's all messed up right now. Hold on. I got to fix a couple things here. All right, let me take some comments from you guys. I also have to reset something here just to do this. Give me about 30 seconds. So anyways, Trump was giving what was supposed to be a press conference, and this was on, he had an appeal hearing today where he is appealing a verdict in 2023 where a jury ordered him to pay writer E. Jean Carroll $5 million, saying that he had sexually abused her and also had defamed her. There was actually another trial in 2024 where a jury ordered Trump to pay E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million, I believe it was, for defamation. So he was giving this, what was supposed to be a press conference, after the appeal hearing today. So he did talk about, though, the E. Jean Carroll case that the appeal hearing was about, but he also talked about a bunch of other cases against him. So you probably, if you watched it, you heard him talking about various cases against him. And again, I'm sorry he didn't take any questions. I'm not lying to you that it was supposed to be a press conference, but he ended up just leaving and not taking any questions. So let me take some comments from you guys. Give me real quick. Hold on a second here. I'm just getting something on the screen here. There, that's better. That's better. Here, look. Oops. Hold on. We're doing it right. Oh, I have to get this posted on the screen. And let me get rid of this red bar here. We don't need that anymore. Hang on. What is happening here? You'll see something on your screen in a second. You should. Why is this not behaving now? Nothing is working. Oh, here it is. Hang on. Give it a second. There we go. That's an article talking about the appeals hearing today. I actually thought he might talk more about like other stuff. I mean, he talked a little bit about Kamala Harris, but he mostly was just complaining about the trial, about the court cases he has been involved in civil and criminal civil trials he's been involved in because of lawsuits against him, and also criminal trials. To be clear, the E. Jean Carroll cases, those are civil trials where somebody sues him. E. Jean Carroll sues him. Those are not cases brought by like the U.S. Attorney's Office or an attorney or a prosecutor in New York. Those are civil cases. The E. Jean Carroll cases. Hang on a moment here. All right, let me read some comments from you guys. See, this said press conference. You can see this is the previous story was a Reuters story. This is an AP story. This was supposed to be a press conference today. Did he post on his social media about this press conference? I just heard about a viewer. I didn't even know about it. Then a viewer messaged me this morning, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even realize he was holding a press conference." Man, I'm looking at his Trump Truth Social. Did he even announce it on his Truth Social? I don't even know if he did. Not even seeing it. So I think it was kind of planned maybe kind of recently. But again, my information is that it was supposed to start at noon. That came from a couple sources, including Reuters. And he ended up starting, I want to say, 20 to 25 minutes early. So it's kind of confusing. Anyways, let me take some comments from you guys on this. Douthis says he just went downstairs and complained. Oh, I don't agree, David, that it's not newsworthy. I disagree. Respectfully, David, I disagree. This is a candidate for president who is in a very close race. A candidate for president of the United States, a former president who's giving a press conference, less than 2 months before the election. I will cover every single press conference that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump give. If Kamala Harris and Donald Trump want to do press conferences every single day before the election, I will cover both of them every single day. Although, again, there's an implication when you say press conference that you're going to take questions. And he did not. A lot of appearances, Trump will take questions. He does do that a lot. For whatever reason today, he did not take questions. And you don't know in advance if he's going to just go off and if he's going to just leave without taking questions. It's also interesting. He didn't have to do a press conference today. So there's this question of why is he doing it? Who's the intended audience? Because it's less than 2 months before Election Day. I believe in a bunch of states they start early voting soon. So is he doing it as a campaign thing? Or is he just doing it regardless of the campaign, because he wants to say it? Jay Hitchcock, our viewer, thinks his lawyers don't want him talking about these trials, but he won't stop talking about it. You can see here, AP says, Donald Trump held a press conference in New York today. Press conference, but there were no questions, following a court appearance during which his lawyers argued that a $5 million verdict finding him liable for sexually abusing and defaming advice columnist E. Jean Carroll in 1996 should be overturned. The court hearing and press conference took place ahead of a planned trip to the battleground state of North Carolina, where Trump will address a meeting of the Fraternal Order of Police as he tries to portray himself tougher on crime than his Democratic opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, Harris largely stayed out of the public eye, preparing in private with her advisors in Pittsburgh for next week's debate. Her campaign announced on Friday that it had raised $361 million from nearly 3 million donors in her first full month as a candidate. Early voting for the November election will be underway in at least 4 states by the end of this month. Oh, here's something. Guys, here's some stuff about the press conference here. A couple things from AP. Trump calls legal cases against him fake. Donald Trump claimed without evidence today in the announcement, in the speech we just watched, that the lawsuit brought against him, that was a civil lawsuit, not a criminal case, civil lawsuit brought against him by E. Jean Carroll was for political reasons and accused the Department of Justice of being behind this and other cases against him and called it political interference and a witch hunt. He said, I'm running for president and I have all of these cases all of a sudden come, he said, and they're fake cases. He was convicted on 34 felony counts in a separate New York case, state case, related to hush money payments allegedly made to a porn actor. It was a falsified business records case. The judge in that case is expected to decide on Friday whether to postpone Trump's sentencing. That case is a disgrace, he said today. I did nothing wrong. Oh, now this is interesting. So I was wondering today that, so Trump today was claiming that E. Jean Carroll lied about him when she said he did things to her. And I was thinking to myself, could she just sue him again for defamation? And now, see, this is what AP says. Fact check, every time Trump denies he sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll, he runs the risk that she'll sue him again for defamation. Every time Trump denies he sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll, he runs the risk she will sue him again for defamation. Juries have now twice awarded E. Jean Carroll huge sums for claiming she made up a story about him attacking her in a department store dressing room in 1996 to help her sell a memoir. But that hasn't stopped Trump from continuing to make nearly identical statements to reporters. At his news briefing today, we just heard this, he again said that Carroll was telling a made-up fabricated story. Carroll's lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, warned in March, after a jury awarded Carroll another $83 million, that she would continue to monitor Trump's comments and would consider suing again if he kept it up. And then this is a little summary here of what we were hearing. Trump criticized his verdict that found him liable for sexually abusing a columnist in 1996. In a press conference, but there were no questions, today, which we just watched, former President Trump criticized a verdict that found him liable for sexually abusing and defaming a columnist, E. Jean Carroll, in 1996, and repeated that he never met, touched, or would have any interest. He did say that today. He would not have any interest in the woman who brought the lawsuit against him. He says it's an appeal of this press conference today was after an appeals hearing where he's appealing the verdict. He said it's an appeal of a ridiculous verdict of a woman I have never met. I have no idea who she is, he said. Trump claimed today, I believe during the press conference today, that E. Jean Carroll fabricated the story inspired by a Law and Order episode. It's so false. It's a made-up, fabricated story by somebody, I think, initially, just looking to promote a book, he added. So if you missed it, you can just go back and watch it. We were just listening to it. Oh, here's a picture of E. Jean Carroll, by the way. This is E. Jean Carroll exiting the court today after the appeal hearing. This is an Associated Press article, by the way. People protest against Trump before his arrival to the court today. He appeared in court today. Okay, just going through this here. That was Trump yesterday. Okay, let me take some more comments from you. And again, I'm sorry, the plan was to come on before the press conference, but the press conference started, I believe, over 20 minutes early. Jimmy ZNJ says, is there any proof they ever met? Look, I don't remember details of the lawsuits, and I'm guessing there's a lot of articles on the lawsuits you can read. I'm sure there are. But a jury in 2023, a jury ruled that they found the evidence sufficient to rule that Trump was liable for sexually abusing and defaming her. So if you again, I'm not familiar. I don't have those details at hand. But if you want to read about the trial, and I'm sure there's lots of stuff you can check out about it. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on the 2020 on that trial. Suzanne Wallach says she can keep suing him if he keeps defaming her. You know, I mean, one thing I was wondering though is like, I mean, is it helpful for his campaign to in the election to do this kind of press conference? I mean, maybe it is helpful. I don't know. Maybe it riles up his supporters or gets his supporters excited for voting for him. I don't know. Or maybe I can't say whether it's helpful or hurtful. I think maybe a traditional campaign would say, well, let's avoid doing a big press conference. Well, it was more of like a speech because he didn't actually take questions. But basically, it was almost all about criminal cases against him. Criminal and civil court cases against him, criminal and civil. So I leave it to you to decide whether it's helpful, it's hurtful. Oh, you know what? We'll do a poll question. Let's do a poll question. Why not? Does today's conference help Trump's campaign, hurt Trump's campaign, doesn't matter? Let's do that. Let's do that question. Let's do that poll question for you guys. See what you have to say. Does today's press conference help Trump's campaign, hurt Trump's campaign, or does it matter? We're going to ask you guys and see what you have to say. And let me actually... Sorry, I haven't even thanked the moderators yet because we came on the air quickly because the press conference started early. I'll call it the media appearance now because he didn't take any questions. Let me just see what you guys have to say about this. Help Trump's campaign. I'm putting it on Twitch. Okay. Real quick, I want to thank before I show you the poll results, I'm going to thank our moderators. We have Al Starr moderating. Thank you. RJ is moderating. Thank you. And also Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. Over on Twitch, A Moment of Lovely, Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, and Papa Bear. And also... on Facebook, I want to thank our mods over there. We have moderating. We might be temporarily modless over on Facebook. No, Ronald Egnor has been moderating. Thank you, Ronald. I was going to say behave yourselves, but behave yourselves anyway. Thank you, Ronald. I also want to thanks for your support, Martin Gingrich. Martin thinks it won't help or hurt him. Thank you, Mike, for your support. Mike says more speaking time than Kamala the past month. As I said, if Kamala Harris wants to do if she wants to do a press conference, even though this wasn't really a press conference today, I'm happy to cover it. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, PZ Papa Zulu, for the support. Thanks, Kenneth Colton and Paula McLennan and Orphan. And Carrie N. and Kender and Debbie James and Janet Burnett and Amy, thank you for your support. Let me show you the poll results. Oh, thank you for your support on Twitch. J7Bo, thanks for subscribing. Thanks, Notorious Rob on Twitch for your support as well. And Emilian, thank you for subscribing. Emilian on Twitch. So here's what you guys had to say about about whether doing a appearance like this would help hurt Trump's campaign, or whether it doesn't matter. Okay, first of all, the YouTube viewers said, let's see here. "45% said doesn't matter, 25% said help Trump's campaign, 30% said hurt Trump's campaign." So that's YouTube. I forgot to point out, what was interesting is, so when I checked out of interest while this press conference was on, again, or media appearance, and I checked CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC. And when I checked, none of them were covering it. And that wasn't right at the end. So none of them were covering it. I especially like being able to show you something like this when the news channels aren't covering it, so you have a place you can watch it. But anyways, I did notice that. All right. So over on Twitch, what are people saying? Let me show you this here. Okay, on Twitch, I know it's a little hard to read there, but it says, does today's press conference help Trump's campaign, hurt Trump's campaign, or no matter? 56% on Twitch said doesn't matter. 15% said help his campaign. 28% said hurt his campaign. All right. Mary McHugh, too, thinks that the networks know it isn't a press conference. Now, Eugene Beecher says Fox Live Now had it. They show a lot of live events. But again, that is not Fox News. Fox News, when I saw it, they weren't covering it. But neither was, MSNBC, nor was CNN when I checked. Let's see. All right. Thank you for voting in the poll. And let me do this. So regarding the debate, I need to, what it's looking like right now, don't totally 100% hold me to it, but what it's from the information I currently have, suggests that I will be able to show the debate coverage of ABC during our stream in 4 days. Now that could change, but the information I currently have suggests that it will be allowed that I show it, which would be great to be able to do. So I am looking into it. I am hoping to be able to actually show the debate. It's up to ABC because they're the ones producing it. But hopefully, I can bring you that, like I brought you the CNN debate at the end of June, with their permission. Hopefully, I can do that, and that's going to be the 10th, 4 days from now. 4 days from now. Okay, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but the information I currently have suggests that I will. That's the information I currently have. Cajun Shrimp says, hope you can show it. So we'll keep you posted on that. Also, hold on. I want to make sure. I want to check. I know people might be sending me things, so give me a moment here. Teresa B. Reynolds says, am beginning to wonder just how agenda-free this channel is, given the preponderance of Trump content versus Harris. I'll say it again, as I said earlier, and as I said many times. If Kamala Harris wants to give a news conference, I will cover it every single time. If Kamala Harris wants to do 2 news conferences a day between now and the election, I will cover them all. This was supposed to be a press conference today, so I covered it. Now, I will say this, though. I probably would have covered it anyway if it was just Trump gives remarks, gives unwritten remarks on whatever. If Kamala Harris wants to go out and give unwritten remarks with her thoughts on something in the news every day between now and the election, I will also cover that every day. So I'm not the one deciding what events there are. But again, I am happy to cover any kind of press conference she gives. I'm happy to cover any kind of unwritten remarks she gives, like Trump gave today. Unwritten, I'm saying, because if I'm assuming it wasn't, I didn't see teleprompter. And again, if you just watch it, the best evidence I have from watching it is that this was not a written speech. And also regarding like other events, if either of them does an event that I think is a bit different or significant or interesting to the viewers, I can cover that stuff as well. So I cover campaign events on both sides. Not all of them, though. I don't cover every single rally they all do. There's been plenty of rallies this week they both did, that they and the vice presidential candidates do the last couple of weeks that I have not covered. Also, I gotta say, what I don't understand is, I feel that showing Trump's remarks today, some people might say, oh, that's good for Trump that you're showing his remarks. I think other people would say, wow, this doesn't look good for Trump today. He's up there talking for 45 minutes about court cases against him and all these allegations against him. So I don't even know showing that today, I don't even know what the bias is supposed to be. There's literally somebody who wrote to me claiming I'm not agenda free and just including a screenshot of me showing the press conference. And I honestly can't tell, does the person think I'm biased toward Trump for showing the press conference or against Trump? I honestly don't know which it is. I can't tell. I genuinely don't know what the person's point is. Anyways. Our viewer Wave says, will you be covering the Starliner detaching today? So the Boeing Starliner spacecraft is detaching from the space station around 6 p.m. and then it's supposed to land around midnight. I'm definitely covering the landing. I might cover the detaching. But the weird thing about the detaching is that might be like a 5-minute stream. So I don't know. I will have Starliner coverage today. But maybe I'll cover the undocking as well. That would be around 6 p.m. Okay? So we will have coverage coming up later today of that, the Boeing Starliner stuff. Thank you, by the way, to Paula McLennan, our new member, and also Punch Gut. Thank you for the gift memberships, Punch Gut. Thank you also, Camus. Thank you, Camus. And Long Range Precision Shooting. Thanks so much for your comment and your support. And the Ringa X, our new member. Thank you. I also want to mention, sorry. One moment here. So one of our viewers just mentioned, in a little bit of political news, one of our viewers wrote to me and said that Just Conscious Stardust wrote to me and mentioned that a Michigan Court of Appeals panel has granted RFK Jr.'s request to remove his name from the Michigan ballot. That's being reported in a number of places, including AZ Intel. But I'm seeing other people report this as well. So, hold on. I'll show you guys in a second. Like Jamie Dupree is reporting it, who's a reporter I follow. Oh, AZ Intel says this report came from Bridge, Michigan. So there's reporting out there which says that a Michigan Court of Appeals panel has granted RFK Jr.'s request to remove his name from the Michigan ballot. But I'll say this, that's from AZ Intel. I don't know, is there some other, is there another, like, is there's a panel, is there any kind of a legal authority above them in Michigan that could overturn their decision? I don't know. I'm not going to get all into this now, but if you look here, a judge had said days ago, that's 3 days ago, RFK Jr. must remain on the ballot, judge says. That's from 3 days ago, Associated Press. So I don't know if things are over in Michigan about this. There's this whole thing which is, I don't want to get all into this right now, but there's this whole thing which is going on, which is here. Where is it here? This is from the Washington Post from yesterday, and it says, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. abandons plan to seek votes in uncompetitive states. So, by the way, RFK Jr. has endorsed Trump, also has said that he's going to take his name off the ballot in competitive states, although some states I believe he won't be able to do that because he doesn't want to take votes away from Trump. And he was originally saying he was going to take his name, leave his name up in uncompetitive states. But I guess the Washington Post says he's abandoning that plan. It says the independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the independent presidential candidate who recently endorsed Donald Trump, called on his supporters Thursday to vote for Trump no matter where they live, reversing instructions he gave 2 weeks ago when he encouraged voters still to vote for Kennedy himself if they lived in uncompetitive states. He wrote in a fundraising email yesterday, no matter what state you live in, I urge you to vote for Donald Trump. The reason is that the only way we can get me and everything I stand for into Washington, D.C. and fulfill them is that the reason is that is the only way we can get me and everything I stand for into Washington, D.C. and fulfill the mission that motivated my campaign. The new message comes as he has expanded the list of Republican-leaning states where he seeks to remove his name from the ballot, even as he continues to fight to add his name to ballots in blue states where Democratic nominee Kamala Harris is expected to win. Michigan, by the way, is a battleground state. Kennedy previously said he would only remove his name from about 10 battleground states where his presence could make him a spoiler that benefits Harris and hurts Trump. Since then, he has removed his name from the ballots in Ohio, South Carolina, Florida, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming, all Republican-leaning states where the presidential race is not competitive, while ending his bid to achieve ballot access in the ruby-red state of North Dakota. His campaign says he may seek to remove his name from other safe Republican states in the coming days. It's a little confusing to me why he changed his mind, because if the state's going to go red anyway, I don't know why not having his name, I don't know why removing his name from the ballot in a Republican state that's going to vote for Trump helps him get into the, helps Trump win anymore. The Washington Post also says there is no recent precedent for an independent candidate for president endorsing a major party competitor while also continuing to try to gather votes for himself. The former Trump has invited Kennedy to be part of his transition team if he wins, and has suggested that Kennedy could have a role advising on a policy in a second term. Okay, anyways, so that's kind of interesting. I just wanted to mention that in the Michigan thing. So it turns out he might be off the ballot in Michigan. Look, it could be significant in one of these battleground states, in any state where the election turns out to be really close. Whether Kennedy's name is on the ballot or not could make a difference. Because if he's on the ballot, there will be some people, I presume, who vote for him, who would have voted for one of the other two if he weren't on the ballot. So I don't know who he would take more support from if his name is on the ballot, but it could turn out in a close election that his name not being or being on the ballot in a certain state makes the difference. You never know. History Underfoot thinks not enough will vote for Kennedy for it to make a difference. HM Doppelganger says he would split the conservative vote. That's the concern here in Utah. Oh, hold on. Look, I missed this important paragraph in the Washington Post story about maybe why he's trying to remove his name in Republican states. Trump campaign advisor, the campaign manager for Kennedy's suspended presidential bid said the list of states where he would seek to leave the ballot remains a work in progress. Okay, fine. The scope of states in which his presence might draw enough support to inadvertently boost Harris has expanded, his campaign manager said. It's precautionary, but the endurance of free speech is too crucial to play political dice. Trump campaign advisors have encouraged Kennedy to remove his name from the ballot wherever he can, said a Trump campaign official familiar with the conversations who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss campaign strategy. Down-ballot Republican strategists have been divided on whether Kennedy's presence on the ballot in states like Texas and Ohio, where Trump is all but certain to win, could affect key GOP Senate campaigns. So I guess the idea would be that some campaign strategists think that if, say, Kennedy is on the ballot in Ohio, where there's a contested Senate race, that if he's on the ballot, then some people might vote for Kennedy instead of Trump, and then because of that, maybe they wouldn't vote for the Republican Senate candidate, if that makes sense. And you see what I'm saying? So it sounds to me like that person who talked to the Washington Post, that Trump campaign official, says there's some concern that Kennedy being on the ballot in Republican-leaning states, while it may not affect the presidential race in that state, could affect the Senate race in that state. That's one line of thought. As T-Nick says, he will keep it on in the blue states, hoping it will take away from the Democrats. Brokey says no Democrat is buying the Kennedy shtick. Jay Hitchcock thinks Ted Cruz is worried. Hang on a moment here. I was just going to tell you what the current polls are in Texas Senate. I don't think they've been that close. According to Real Clear Polling, the last 3 polls on the Texas Senate race these are from September and August, are Cruz +4, Cruz +8, and Cruz +2. There was a poll, the Hill Emerson in early September, the most recent one, Cruz +4, Ted Cruz +4. There was one in late August, University of Texas, which was Cruz +8, and there was one University of Houston in mid-August, which was Cruz +2. Those are the last 3 from the last 2 months. Okay. So guys, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to be doing some coverage of the Starliner later today. Maybe around 6, definitely around midnight, definitely around like 11 p.m., the Boeing Starliner, but maybe we'll cover it, I'll try to cover the one around 6 p.m. The Starliner is supposed to come back from the International Space Station without a crew. They're going to be doing it without a crew. So let me wrap up this stream. Yeah, all times Eastern, as one of our viewers says, Barry. Let me wrap up this stream because I got to take care of some things before then. Obviously, if there's huge news before then, I'll come back on the air. But otherwise, I'll try to get on for that. And if you missed the Trump, it was he called it a press conference, but it ended up being just him speaking. If you missed it, you can rewind and watch. Although because he ended up starting early, I didn't even get the first part of it. I really appreciate you guys joining the stream. Sorry we didn't make it on the air before it actually started and give you a pre-show. But I am going to wrap this up. We'll be back with more coverage later today. And thanks for watching and letting me read your comments on the air and writing in and all that. But I appreciate you letting me read your comments, some interesting comments today and questions. And also, and thanks for joining. And thanks to our more coverage to come. And if stuff happens when I'm not off the air, when I'm off the air, then I will post about it on my X account, which is @Lookner on X. You can find me over there. I cover breaking news when I am not on the air there. Hey, thanks to our moderators too. And subscribe and follow the channel. It's Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. Agenda Free TV. Subscribe and follow. And turn on notifications so you know when we're going live. A lot of times I don't know until right before that we're going live to cover some breaking news. Turn on the notifications. We have a free notification system. It works great. The mods will post the link to the free notifications in the chat. And you can find the notifications link in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook as well. Hey, thanks to Carms and RJ for moderating over there on YouTube. Thank you. I appreciate it. And also Linda Belk and Larry on X. And also A Moment of Lovely, Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, and Papa Bear. Thank you for moderating on Twitch, and all of our other moderators who've been here today. And Ronald Egnor and Kay Lowry Body moderating over there on Facebook. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And Raven Lynn as well. And thanks to everybody who donated. So nice of you guys. So kind of you to donate and support the channel. You are the ones who allow me to do this channel, allow the channel to exist, and for allow me to obtain footage like the press conference we were showing today. So thanks for your support. If you ever want to support the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. And, hold on a second. A little news. It's Robert mentioned to me. Judge delays Trump's sentencing and hush money case until November 26th. That is from Kyle Griffin. That just came out from Kyle Griffin, who is with, I believe, MSNBC. Yes. Judge delays Donald Trump's sentencing and hush money case until November 26th. So there you go. After the election. Well after the election. All right. Thanks to the viewer for writing in, letting me know. Jay Ryan says, perhaps people who say you have an agenda for showing Trump do not remember all of your coverage of the DNC. Thanks, Jay Ryan, for writing in. Hang on one second here. I'm seeing some unconfirmed reports that there may have been a shooting, maybe not, I don't know, how, maybe of one or more people, I'm not sure, at a high school possibly in Maryland. So, all right, I'm not sure about this. There's not much information on this right now. So I do want to check it out though. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up kind of quick. Yeah, so guys, I'm gonna get off the air. I'm ending the stream. Let me just see if there's something I need to cover. I don't know if it is. I'm gonna wrap this up. Thanks to our Facebook subscribers and our YouTube members and our Twitch subscribers. Sorry, I can't do any shout outs right now. Let me just get off the air and check on that, okay? So I really appreciate all of our subscribers and our YouTube members. But let me rush off and just see. This may be nothing I need to cover, but I got to check it out, okay? So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.